Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you all have been enjoying the Outlaws of Thunder Junction and coming up with some new spicy brews. And I just wanted to start up a new series every Sunday. I'm going to be doing the Meta Breakers, which are going to be these kind of off-meta best of one decks from Mythic that people have piloted into Mythic that caught my attention throughout the week. So this will be week 0 for Outlaws at Thunder Junction, and this deck is really cool. I bet you've maybe bumped into it already on the ladder. I saw it first at MTG Creative Combos, and if you haven't checked them out, I highly recommend it. They have come up with some really cool creative one-turn kills, and this one is an infinite damage loop in Standard. It's a little bit of a it's a little delicate, so the whole point here is to kind of centered around the hulking metamorph, and if you get metamorph back into play while you have a Rakdos joins up as a 1/1 off of the Abuelo's Awakening. So with this being a 1/1 legendary, you copy this into a copy of the Rakdos and then you because of the legendary rule, you send one to the graveyard. The ETB of this, when it enters the battlefield, returns a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you use this to grab the hulking metamorph. You then use the metamorph to copy this. This then goes to the graveyard, and it loops over and over, dealing 18 damage every time that you go through the loop. You can then resolve it by declining or just by copying another creature in your graveyard. But you can get this off as early as turn 4. The way that you interrupt it is that you destroy the 1/1 copy of Rakdos joins up before while the loop is going, or you counterspell the Abuelo's Awakening. And then the rest of the deck is really just enablers to get things into your graveyard, like Faithful Mending, Otherworldly Gaze, Picklock, Ledger Shredder with the Connive, Founding the Third Path to be able to play the Faithful Mending for free, and then be able to play the Abuelo's Awakening from the graveyard as well. Philology Archaeologist, Chart a Course, just, yeah, enabling the combo. But these are your 3 big pieces that make the whole thing work. So if you are coming up against it and you see them kind of what looks kind of like the Crimes, or not the one that was trying to do like a turn 4 Breach the Multiverse, right? Anytime that you see the Founding of the Third Path, remember to keep up some instant interaction if you can to disrupt this combo. But definitely worth checking out if you haven't already. All right, this is a Rakdos, although not really a whole lot of black, right? Almost just a mono red prowess deck. But this is Rakdos Aggro, which was I found by Play Intelligent. And so what you're using the black for is for the fling of Callous Cell Sword. And the rest of this is just your classic like Cacophony Scamp and Picnic Ruiner to hit in for a ton of damage, using things like Felonious Rage, Blazing Crescendo, Antagonize to be able to hit for 3 Bane Splitters to hit for a whole bunch of damage. And then you've got your prowess guys like Fugitive Codebreaker and the Monastery Swiftspear. And what's really nice about this too is that it is the only rares in the list are Fugitive Codebreaker and the Case of the Crimson Pulse. So it's a relatively budget list, and if one person was able to get to Mythic, I believe you can too. So definitely worth checking out as kind of a different take on the Gruul aggro deck that was running the Questing Druid. Next up on the list is Azorius Artifacts by Egon. And long ago, I covered this list, and so it was fun to see it kind of popping back. And the reason why it's really come back into the spotlight for Outlaws of Thunder Junction is the Simulacrum Synthesizer. So this was a one of the list cards or the special guest cards, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 2, and then more importantly, whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So this works for our Thousand Moon Smithy and some of our more expensive artifacts, or not even terribly expensive, but like Tinker's Tote. So we've got some stuff that can kind of lean into the synergy off of the Simulacrum Synthesizer. Because you're running so many of the you can get some really oppressive board states with the Thousand Moon Smithy because of how many artifacts that you have. And then here, this is just going for the blink effect. We did see the Wrath in previous versions that was a way to kind of do a board wipe. And this one's leaning more just strictly into ramping off of the Fabrication Foundry and then having Disruption that also leaves an artifact on the battlefield, Market Gnome to block early pressure, Guardian of Girapur, and the Scroll Shift to blink our artifacts to get additional ETBs, and then Touch the Spirit Realm for some removal as well. So being able to blink our removal, you can kind of move around what you're trying to target. And then the Circuit Mender, works with the Synthesizer, but it also gains its 2 life when it enters the battlefield, and then when it dies, it draws us a card. Kind of nice stabilization against mono red. Next up, we got Grixis Midrange, or Grixis Crimes, which was piloted by Tappy Shoes to get into Mythic. And this one's leaning heavily into a lot of the new cards that we've seen from Outlaws at Thunder Junction. So we got Gisa, the Hellraiser, that creates a whole bunch of 3/3 menace zombies every time that you commit a crime. We've got the Laughing Jasper Flint, which commits crimes as one of your enablers. You've got like Lord Skitter enables every turn committing a crime. Same with the Graveyard Trespasser. If you target your opponent or your target's a graveyard, is committing a crime. Lasav is able to bring back some of the pieces here. We've got Magda, which is a payoff for committing crimes. Dadmir Newblood, which is a payoff for committing crimes and grows into like a 6/6 menace lifelinker. We've got a little bit of Shoot the Sheriff, which is kind of, an exploration if this will work better or similar to like Go for the Throat. And then we've just got Disruption for hitting up against mono red. Duress here, like I mentioned, there's enough in the meta that there's not a whole lot of 100% creature spells outside of mono white. Duress is a pretty good main board. And then we've got the Tiny Bones Joins Up that makes it whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield, your opponent mills a card and loses 1 life. But what's important about this is that it enables a crime. So this is another way to commit crimes every single turn when you're playing a legendary like the Jasper Flint. And then it also makes your opponent discard, which commits a crime when it enters the battlefield. And then we've got the Phantom Interference, which is the new Quench from Outlaws at Thunder Junction. And this, I think, you could probably just play this as a Make Disappear, but clearly trying to explore and showcase some of the cool stuff going on in the Grixis Crimes space. And most of them are legendary creatures. There's a heavy dose of legendary creatures, so this could be, you could call it Grixis Legends as well. And because of that, we can run 3 copies of Plaza of Heroes. Oh, and notably, the Grixis Crime deck is doing quite well against the Mono Red and Boros Convoke decks. So if you're bumping into a whole bunch of Boros and Mono Red or Red deck wins and Boros Convoke, Grixis is a good way to do that. Speaking of kind of the old way of countering Mono Red, Mono White is relatively well positioned to be a meta breaker right now. And this is not a new list. This is an old list. We've seen this one before, but this one was piloted by Waffle to hit into Mythic, and leans just heavily like Lunarch Veteran's really good against the mono white, giving us life every time something enters the battlefield. Really, it leans on the Coppercoat Vanguard and the human synergies, so it also works relatively well against the control decks, which we're starting to see a little bit more of Azorius Control popping up to counteract the red deck wins and Boros Convoke. So Thalia interrupts the temporary lockdowns and such. The Sunfalls makes them cost 1 more to cast. Ossification gives us some creature and planeswalker hate if we come into something that's just completely stopping our strategy. Intrepid Adversary gives all of our humans +1/+1, and it has lifelink, which helps stabilize against mono red. Brutal Cathar for a little bit of removal, and then the Sanguine Evangelist to give our board pump as we grow our board off of Adeline, and then Knight Errant of Eos can help us hit in our entire deck as long as we're convoking with 3 creatures. If you can convoke with 5, you can hit another Knight Errant of Eos, but if you convoke with at least 3 creatures and then pay the remaining 2 mana, then you can hit the majority of your the rest of your deck. Then we've got Cavern of Souls to prevent our humans from being countered. Gonjo and Mishra's Foundry as a little bit for, just a little bit of a finisher against against the control matchups. So That's it for my meta breakers. This one's going to be a little bit faster than my complete meta review that I run every Monday. So tomorrow, look for that. I'll be covering the tournament winners of best of 3 if they're available. I think they are. And then the top performing, most common picks instead of these, which are kind of off meta. I'll be covering mono red and the new mono red prowess deck and such on Monday. So take care, everybody. Let me know if you like this sort of thing. I always love to hear feedback. And these ones that I'm going to be showcasing on Sundays are the ones that I'm going to be running for my 50 match summary instead of putting up the ones that are the most common in the meta, because I think there's more interest in exploring off meta picks. So I think that's going to be a positive change. Let me know if you agree. And yeah, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday.